Hello everyone, this is Turd Flinging Monkey, and let's talk about the political trichotomy yet again. I've been thinking about this, and I've come to the realization that what drives these different points of the triangle is a fundamental value that people within that group put above all others, and that determines basically what point of the triangle you align with. So if you look at the communist left, their highest value is equality. The individual's right, their highest value is freedom. And to the absolutist right, their highest value is stability. You can actually easily tell what camp somebody falls in by talking to them for like a minute. Because everything will be about forwarding their value. To them, if you're a communist, then equality is your highest value. Anything which furthers equality is good. Anything which reverses or stands in the way of communism is evil. If you're an individualist, freedom is your highest value. Anything which promotes freedom is good. Anything which restricts freedom is bad. And if you're an absolutist, anything which promotes stability is good. And anything which supports degeneracy or chaos or whatever is bad. It's extremely easy to tell where people fall. That's not really the most important insight I gained, though. The most important insight is there's literally no conversation to be had because we're talking about core values. When somebody has a completely different set of core values and they're mutually exclusive to your core values, there's no middle ground. There is either you give up and join me, or you defeat me and I join you, but there's no middle ground. If you're like, I'm an individualist, whatever. I'm biased because I am an individualist and I value freedom. So when I'm dealing with a communist, they hate freedom. To them, freedom represents hierarchy. It represents unequal outcomes. It represents meritocracy and capitalism. Therefore, freedom is evil. Freedom must be restricted because people aren't equal. Some people work harder or have genetic advantages over others and they achieve more, and that's unequal. And so freedom must be restricted in the name of equality. To the absolutist, freedom is degeneracy. This is why when you talk to these absolutist guys, they always read about mud degeneracy. Everything's degeneracy. And it's because freedom leads to the breaking apart of traditional things, traditional institutions, and it actually harms stability. You can't have a free society which is also stable. Freedom is inherently an unstabilizing force. Therefore, freedom is not evil per se, but it's degenerate. Freedom is degeneracy. And so both the absolutist right and the communist left hate freedom. In the very same way that as an individualist, someone who loves freedom and is my highest value, I couldn't give a shit less about stability. I was having a conversation with someone on my Discord last night, and I don't know if he was entirely serious. He said he was being like devil's advocate, but I could tell that there's a little bit more sincerity in his voice than he was willing to let on. But he was talking about how, if you live in an absolutist country like a monarch or a dictator, they're going to leave you alone for the most part. You're going to be mostly free. It's like, sure, that's like saying there's a black market in the Soviet Union. Therefore, even if you live in a communist country, you still have some freedom because you can go to the black market. Honestly, though, the black market or whatever, it brings up an interesting point. When people are forced to live somewhere and they can't leave, they can't immigrate to a country, or they choose not to, that's where this problem comes from. You know what would solve all these problems? If people could freely immigrate to comparable countries which had different systems. If there was a communist country that worked, then all the communists can go live there. If there was an absolutist country that worked, all the absolutists could go live there. Everyone could immigrate to the country that held their values. And this is actually what made America great originally. America was originally founded on the principles of individualism. It wasn't anarcho-capitalist. It wasn't like the most purest form of individualism. But the Articles of Confederation were pretty much the closest we've come to a real attempt to make a small, very limited federal government. Now, it wasn't strong enough because the states were stepping over each other, so the Constitution was created, but it just moved it just enough to make it work. It wasn't meant to become the behemoth it's become today. What actually fucked America up, when you think about it, is the fact that America has become the sole superpower in the world. So everyone wants to come to America, not because they want to be free, not because they believe in the values that America was founded on. They come to America because America's where all the money is. America runs the world. And so if you want to have some kind of influence or you want a higher standard of living, you come to America. Now, how much better would it be if there were multiple countries that were all more or less comparable, and some of them had communist systems, some of them had absolutist systems, and some of them had individualist systems, and people could live in the system they want, and they wouldn't have to sacrifice their standard of living, and so on and so forth. That would be great, and you wouldn't have the animosity you have now. Because America is the sole superpower in the world, we basically run the world, everyone comes to America. Everyone is trying to take over America because this is the seat of power. And so you have all these completely different ideologies trying to take over, like the communist left, the absolutist right, and so forth. And there's really no resolution here because in order for them to win, they have to take America. It doesn't matter if they're betraying the principles of America. Like, if you ask these immigrants, they don't want to become American. People don't immigrate to America because they love America, they want to be American. Some do, surely. But for the most part, people immigrate to America just to collect welfare. They just want money. It's people who don't want to be American, who don't believe in the values of America, coming to America to leech off the success that capitalism and individualism and American values create. Individualism and freedom absolutely create better societies. And then the people from the stupid societies come to America like, oh, money, yay, and then they ruin it. And they're like, oh, but I want my communism and my absolutism. It's very tiring. And the sad thing is, there is no conversation to be had. There's no argument I can present. I can show you communism doesn't work. I can show you freedom and individualism create higher standards of living, more wealth, but that doesn't matter because you disagree with freedom on moral grounds. Now, this is an example I've used with Halsey a bunch, but I don't think I've put it in the video, so let me put it in a video now. I want you to think of someone who's pro-life. If you're pro-life, perfect. So you're pro-life. You fundamentally disagree with abortion. You think that it's murder. Great. So there's been a book, it was written several years ago, called Freakonomics, and there's this whole chapter about how abortion lowers crime. And he talks about the crime rate before and after abortion and how allowing mothers to abort their unwanted children created fewer criminals who committed fewer crimes, and so it made the country less crime-ridden. So there's other studies I could point out that show that abortions are cheaper than welfare. Allowing women to murder their babies is cheaper than paying them all this welfare to take care of babies they can't afford to have. So I've created the economic case. I've shown that abortion lowers crime, it helps the economy, it's cheaper than welfare. Do you now support abortion? Are you pro-choice? Probably not. You're probably still pro-life. Now why? I just created this great economic argument. I showed that abortion is good economically and, from terms of welfare spending. Why aren't you pro-choice? And your answer is because it's immoral, it's wrong, it's evil, it's murder. You are against abortion on moral grounds. You don't give a shit about what arguments I have, what charts I show you, what economic data says. You don't care because you are morally against abortion. In the very same way, the communist left and the absolutist right are morally against freedom. The absolutist right thinks freedom is degeneracy. They are morally against it, and they will take your freedom because it is the right thing to do. The communist left is also morally against freedom because freedom stands in the way of equality. You can't have a free society which is also equal. So they will come and take your freedom. Some people value equality, some people value freedom, and some people value stability. And there's nothing inherently evil about equality, freedom, and stability. You're not evil if you believe in equality. You're not evil if you believe in stability. You're not evil if you believe in freedom. You're just different. You have different values. And unfortunately, there's no conversation, there's no argument I can present that's going to convince you to change your values. So this is going to get hashed out through a war, essentially. There's no way around this. Unfortunately, we can't have a conversation to determine who's right. We're going to have a war to determine who's left. And that's how this is ultimately going to be settled. I'm not looking forward to that. I just want to be left alone. That's the saddest thing. I just want to be left alone. But nope, that's not an option. I can't be left alone because of my equality and my stability. So, okay. I guess we'll see you in the wasteland. It's a turd flinging monkey. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.